Actually, Ren and Brett showed up without a speech tonight, so I gave them mine and said, make the most you can out of it. Now, I know that I'm going to hear from my good friend and neighbor, Senator Wendell Ford, when I get home, and he's going to say, Joe, you really shouldn't have said that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say that this race is not about yard signs and bumper stickers and a pat on the back. It's about skill sets and problem solving in the real world. It's not about how long you've been in office, but rather the challenge of actually having run an office. It's not about acquaintances, it's about accomplishments. It's about the economy, it's not about incumbency. Our state, as most of you know, is financially challenged. Members of the General Assembly have a hard time crafting a budget. And I submit to you tonight, who better to craft a budget in the public sector than someone that's actually put a budget together in the private sector. All across the Commonwealth, we need jobs and employment. Now I ask you, would it make sense to elect someone who's actually created jobs and employed people? Our state is spending money that we don't have. It's borrowing money that we can't pay back. And too often, our elected officials spend their time arguing and blaming each other. Now you folks and folks all across the Commonwealth know that there's common ground. And we need to find that common ground for the common good. That's why it is so important to send folks to office that have been on the receiving end of what state government puts out to be on the sending end for a while. Our state is over $7 billion in debt. And the projection is by the year 2012, we'll be over $9.5 billion in debt. Our debt service alone is over $1 billion a year. And in this time of belt tightening, when you include all funds, we added an additional $1.5 billion of debt this past session. In the last 10 years, we've doubled our bonded indebtedness. Now we look at California and we claim how physically insane those folks are out there, but we only have to look at our own Commonwealth and see that we're headed down that same road. We need new leadership, we need new energy, and we need new ideas. Now obviously that's easy to say, new ideas. So what are your ideas, Joe? I mean, that's easy for any candidate to profess that we got to change things and come up with new ideas. Well, I would submit to you tonight that if we aren't quick enough, if we aren't sharp enough to come up with our own ideas, let's just look at some states that are doing it right and pattern ourselves after them. Our neighbor to the north has tort reform. That's a good thing. Our neighbors to the south have a better tax code, a better way of taxing their citizens. So if we can't figure it out for ourselves, let's model ourselves after states that are doing it right. Now to speak on local issues, Owensboro's been left out of the conversation in Frankfort for far too long. We haven't had that seat at the table that we deserve. We haven't had that voice. And ladies and gentlemen, I can give us that voice. I can give us that seat at the table that Owensboro deserves because other communities have prospered, have grown, have excelled at our expense, and it's time for that to change. People run for public office for different reasons. They're motivated in different ways. I submit to you tonight that my motivation is to go to Frankfort to do a job, not for a job. I consider it a privilege to serve and not a profession. And if you will honor me with your vote in November, I will promise you in return that you will get an elected official striving to be a statesman and not a politician. Thank you all very much.